What do you know about your workplace that you are not supposed to know? I work in education. My former chairman allowed a female employee to embezzle money from the school. I found out and blew the whistle. I assumed the woman would be fired and the chair would be demoted. Instead, the woman was asked to quit and given a package. And the chair stayed in his position because of his status as a coach. He proceeded to make my job very difficult for the next 5 years until he gave up the chairmanship to someone competent. The woman was his work wife and mistress, who also used to be his student at our school. Casino worker. There are a disturbing amount of suicides that happen on property. Almost none are reported to the public. I know the key code to a storeroom I'm not really supposed to. I use it for naps. Once, instead of receiving my paycheck, I received a file containing every paycheck of everybody in the company. Thus, I knew how much money everybody were making, what benefits they had, etc., including the CEO and high management. My boss was sleeping with HR head and they're both married, not to each other. The CEO does coke before public speaking. My boss stores beer in the server room because the temperature is always kept cool. The bed bugs in the hotel beds are not isolated to one room anymore. The admin password for our laptops. The IT guy from 4 years ago never changed it. From my last job, under no circumstances are you even to look at what's going on in the other half of the plant. What was going on? They were building an automated side. Got replaced by a robot a year later. The boss masturbates to weird stuff sometimes at his desk and almost always takes a nap after lunch. I've also seen him drinking beer for breakfast. Edit, guys, it's me. I'm the boss. Not a current job but at a past job. My manager quit and the CEO gave me access to his emails so I could find information about how to do projects he only knew about. I started looking for all the salary information from all the co-workers on my team. Found out I was being paid significantly less than the person who previously had my position. I went and negotiated about a 40% raise with the CEO based on that information. The reason there's high turnover is because management fired the one competent manager for being too kind. My office purposely messes up people's wages to see if A, they are honest about receiving extra, or B, they can save money by not paying it all. It's such a scum thing to do, just glad it never happened to me. The reason my boss won't replace the aging fleet of company cars for people below him is because he wasn't allowed to get the car he wanted and now he's pouting and nobody is getting new cars. A Jeep Patriot isn't supposed to live to 200,000 miles. Old job. Those shiny new fume hoods and laminar flow cabinets didn't actually have working vents. At a place that I used to work, I was the only person with any IT smarts. I set up the spam filter to forward to my inbox any maybe emails that it caught, which I would then look at and forward on if they weren't spam. On 2 occasions I was forwarded an email receipt for Viagra which one of my colleagues had purchased with his work email address. I just deleted them rather than forward on because, well, because it's just easier that way. My boss is faking a recovery program. Hit her ex-husband with a car. And is never going to change or get fired because she's the owner's daughter who can't do anything about her. That my boss is a complete moron. When we figure out a way to accomplish something more efficiently than the set ways, she loses it because she hates change. Like, completely loses it and makes everyone panic while she panics because she is a moron. At a previous job we had an hour manager get fired right after returning from maternity leave. She was replaced by the guy that she trained to fill in for her while she was gone. She sent a company-wide email with the pay rate of everyone from the plant manager on down. It was a rich show. A lot of pay rates were wildly different in management, supervision and maintenance. There were talks of work stops, strikes and slowdowns. Even threats of unionizing. I believe that this one act led to the eventual closure of the plant. It was a crazy time. We know what they use their laptops for. And what kinds of sick porn you watch. Some users download and stream it. We can see what's hogging the network bandwidth, yo. I just pray the keyboards don't get returned sticky when they quit. I found out my co-worker on a lower position was getting a few $1,000s more in salary than me. She told me her wage when she left the company. Wrote up a polite but stern email to my boss asking her to not only match it but increase by a couple of K because I did have a higher position after all, and she did. Sometimes knowing things can be a benefit. That our CEO's speeches are actually written by low-level grunts makes me wonder about all the inspiring leaders' speeches of the past. By jumping from department to department over the years. At my old job I knew a combination of things that no one person was supposed to know. I knew alarm codes, vault combinations, locations of keys, passwords, schedules, location and functionality of cameras and security systems. Led to a lot of idle daydreaming on bad days of things I could, but never would, do. That the third floor isn't complete yet. A colleague told me how he was reprimanded for talking about it to people not in the know. I wasn't in the know. So I used to work for and go in a government funded program. Shortly before I quit I found out that the higher ups were actually taking government funded money that was meant for our program and using it on their own non-government funded programs. So essentially they were stealing millions of dollars from the government. If we have to clock in for work at a time when we are not technically on the schedule, we use what's called a red card. For example, let's say I'm scheduled 2-9 on a particular day and I got called in early. If I tried to punch, I would get an error message. The only people with these red cards are managers, store manager, perishable manager and non-perishable manager. Well, I know the code for the red card. So theoretically I can punch myself in without needing to get it from a manager. One of our guys took a work van to rob a bank. He got arrested and after 5 years of working somewhere else he came back to work for us. That with a day or two of effort, I could draft a full proposal for eliminating my job and the other 4 people who do my job. It's completely unnecessary and the organization wastes, conservatively, $200,000 a year on salary and benefits for us to perform a very small number of tasks that could easily be delegated elsewhere or replaced with an outside service. I suspect it's one of those being taken care of situations. The other 4 employees are all women and have all been there for 15-20 years. Nobody wants to pull these old fossils into the office and say you're a grown adult who gets paid a grown adult salary to sit around on Facebook and answer the phone 3 times in an 8-hour shift. Get the duck out of here. Private sector. The position would have been eliminated a decade ago. I mean, it's nice that I'm employed, but the job is a complete waste of time and money. You know that book Bullet Jobs? This is it. The boss makes a whole lot more money than he wants us to believe. If you believe him, he and his family are a hair's width from living under a bridge. Never mind the brand new 70-inch smart TV for the office. Manager fired one of my co-workers, let's call him Billy, because her good friend, who works with Billy, didn't like him. It didn't matter that he was never late, was dedicated, smart, hardworking, and didn't gossip. Manager also promoted her other friend, who was our billing person and previously worked retail, to HR manager. People's insurance through the company started lapsing and vacation days were taken without warning. Said people were not in the office those days when people had a full work day's worth of emails to show for it. Learned on a closing shift at one place I worked that if you can convince the higher ups that you smoke, you get a 10-minute paid smoke break every hour on top of your break. My boss is sexually harassing my colleague and there is nothing I can do about it. She is afraid of losing her job and we don't have any proof of misconduct to denounce him. The factory manager that recently retired in his 50s actually was sexually harassing 2 women engineers in their 20s that opened an hour case together. I've tried to ask why he gets to get off with reputation intact and HR says it's company policy to keep investigations private. One of his personal photographs from his travels is still hanging in the cafeteria with his name on it. My bosses tried artificial insemination a couple of times but to no avail. They now treat the company like their child, which is understandable and I feel for them. Former job. They'd falsify records, so managers would get a nice bonus at the end of the year for not having any incidents. I work in a pretty well-known financial institution. I see a select few people most days commit what could be described as negligent at best and downright reckless actions at worst. I'm on a relatively low level, so they presume I don't see, but I'm just waiting for auditors, regulators to tear the place to shreds. My boss's wife, who pretty much plays boss by ordering people around, shuffling things around every other week, is an absolute trash leader, and it shows by people being really unhappy and on edge. She may have years of experience doing this, but what she's been doing isn't the way to lead. At my last command, the legal officer of all people would put his calls on speakerphone and leave his door open. So of course everyone in the vicinity could hear him talking about people's sensitive information as well as his personal opinions about these people. One of the worst I overheard was, "Is there anything we can do to keep so and so from advancing, getting a promotion?" Another was, "So and so's wife called the captain saying he beat the it out of her. So now I have to deal with that. He was a piece of it. Probably still is." Everyone's passwords. We store them in clear text. It's horrifying. Edit. It's not seeing the passwords themselves that is awful, you donkeys. It's the fact that is a security time bomb. That at my zero drug tolerance workplace, the Sears executive assistant and the head of HR do coke on weekends together. So I know when they're not going out that weekend there'll be a workplace drug test the end of the next week. My boss has been banging the secretary, who is married, for years. And it's a secret that the secretary's first kid, 14-yo, is my boss' biological child. My boss is also married with kids. My former boss, who is married, had 6 in his office with multiple employees. It leadership skills. He came from a naval background, didn't have a bloody clue what he was talking about unless it was Navy stuff. Office supervisor had duck budders in the office. He would let them get away with murder in exchange for sexual favors. He would always talk about how much he got paid compared to everyone else. Never wanted to help anyone or give it. The entire department is a completed show. The good bunch of people who made the place decent either left or constantly got ducked over. Hard workers never got a thank you.